May the Lord give this council the wisdom, discernment and courage to serve the community. Grant also that we may act compassionately and with integrity in the best interest of this shire. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I would like to show respect and acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land and elders past, present and future on which this meeting takes place. This meeting is being audio recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any offensive statements. There will be no other recordings of this meeting without prior authorisation of council. Thank you, councillors. So welcome, councillors, and welcome to those zooming in. You can all hear us. Yes, Councillor Abbott. Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on, councillors. Dot point 3, application for attending meeting via video link. Councillor Abbott. You've got a mover to accept. To move, Councillor Watts. Second, Councillor Fisher. All in favour? Against? Carried. Apologies. Application for leave.
Mr Mayor, I have one apology from Councillor Burns tonight.
Moved by Councillor Campbell. Second by Councillor Fisher. All in favour? Against? Carried. Public participation. We've got Gerald Howard via Zoom. You're going to speak on SCR 09.2 Infrastructure Services, ISC 09.2 Works Program in Water Sewer. Gerard, you've got 5 minutes, Gerard, and I'll give you a noise like that when you're 1 minute to go.
Mr Mayor, shall I start?
You can start, thank you.
Okay. So it's heartening to read that Council is intending to move forward towards fluoridation of the water supply in the Upper Hunter Shire. Fluoride in water helps prevent tooth decay in both children and adults. Approximately 90% of the New South Wales population has access to fluoridated water. Its benefits are acknowledged, I believe, by both the Commonwealth and state governments. However, in correspondence I've received from Council on the matter and in the business paper tonight, I've not seen reference to a time frame for the implementation of fluoride in our water supply. I presume a project plan with associated timeframes has been developed for this initiative. So I'm not asking for a time frame to be presented tonight, unless of course it can easily be put forward. However, I would ask that it be provided to councillors in the first instance so that they can make it available to interested members of the public. If Council seriously wants to attract individuals and young families to settle and live in the Upper Hunter Shire, then providing fluoride in our water supply needs to be a priority public health improvement and something Council could be proud to have achieved. The second matter relates to E09.1 and the draft Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan.
You can just hold it there a minute.
Yes.
I might go back to the infrastructure services and just let councillors ask you any questions that they wish to ask, and then we'll move on to the next one. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sure.
Councillors, any questions? No questions? You can continue on. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Second matter I'd like to raise has relevance, I think, to Council's draft Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. Recently, Council provided endorsement for the Hunter Gas Pipeline to be constructed through the Shire, provided it doesn't go on private land, but instead on public land. I consider it's a shame that Council voted narrowly to this effect, and I believe there's some detrimental impacts on the decision. After speaking to a spokesperson from the Hunter Gas Pipeline, it seemed clear to me that they hope to place the pipeline along the stock route, certainly between Marundi and Blandford, and no doubt further along to Wingen, just outside Wingen. This historical route is a picturesque walking, cycling and riding track, and therefore of benefit to all the community. I believe council has a duty to prevent the further degradation of this important public corridor, and it provides benefits to people, to bird life, to flora and fauna. So we're talking about an important community asset. You'd be hard pressed, I believe, to find a more scenic and uplifting public thoroughfare than those few like this one that remain in our shire. It can be a draw card for our shire, bringing people who long for an experience of natural beauty to the area. And some might say that the pipeline will go underground. Well, I believe if the water pipeline is any example, it would just further degrade the route I'm talking about. To walk along the stock route today, there are many sections that have been laid with large blue metal stones and rocks. Now, whether it be the water pipeline or works associated with the railway line, the end result is often a surface which can be difficult and uncomfortable to travel on. Little effort has been made to restore the surface. As a council and a community, I think we can demand better than that. I also wonder why very well-off property owners, such as horse stud owners, maybe Emirates Park, places like that, seem to get preferential treatment over the general public and the common good. So they get not to have a pipeline, but the general public has to have one on the narrow corridor, which is precious public land. So Council's draft climate change strategy seeks to determine opportunities for increased planting of flora, particularly native trees. The historic stock route from Marundi to Injun, and probably further on, has some sections without shade that would benefit from tree planting. Such as Council's draft strategy states, such an action would provide carbon offsets and encourage wildlife. The historic stock route is a precious community asset. Council could be proud to preserve, maintain and enhance it, rather than have it further degraded by a gas pipeline. If the gas pipeline has to go ahead, it should be located elsewhere, perhaps alongside the highway. But I think that's a separate issue as to whether it should go ahead at all. I just am here to put the case that it certainly should not go along that precious corridor that our community can be very proud to maintain and attract visitors to our shire. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jared. Councillors, any questions?
I'd just like to comment.
Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Howard, for your presentation, which I completely agree with and fully support. And I agree with you that stock route is very important and it is a historic one and something that we could certainly use to the whole benefit of the whole community if we use it wisely. And I thank you for both your presentations and particularly the one on the climate change action plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, thank you, and thank you for your presentation, although I think it is, I probably would not agree with it. The thing is, with the stock routes today, they are not used alongside a highway. They are never used for livestock, as they were probably 100 years ago. And I come from the western area out there of the Shire, and I travel to Dunedoo, Dubbo and south and up north. There is a gas pipeline that comes from South Australia, and it's completely rehabilitated. You would not even know that it's there. And I suggest to you that this is what would take place on that corridor. It is important that I believe that the gas is available and for industries, and also we have to remember that there are a lot of households that are using gas today. Are we going to condemn all those households that they have to convert to electricity, or wood? And I don't believe that the continuing use of wood burning fires is the way to go in the future. So I just wonder whether or not that this is perhaps overstated, and I thank you for your diligence in that, but I would disagree. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So no more questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
And we'll come across those agenda items shortly if you wish to stop with us, or you do whatever you feel you need to.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, Council, move on to Kirsty Cole via Zoom for D09.1 DA122/2021 Tennis Club and Storage Shed, 45 Hill Street, Scone. Kirsty, you'll get the same. You get 5 minutes and you'll hear the little noise after 4. Thank you.
Thank you. You can all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so what the tennis club is proposing to do is, well, we're applying for a development application in order that we can apply for our Regional Sports Facility Fund grant that closes next Friday, the 8th of October. What we're proposing and hoping to achieve is we have 7 tennis courts at the tennis club. The back 3 are old and very deteriorated, and we wanted to resurface those courts into a multi-purpose surface for tennis, hockey, soccer and rugby league to train on when they are not able to train on their field because of rain, or if they choose to do any kind of exercise on that surface. So that's the plan for the tennis courts. The tennis clubhouse is very old and only has 1 toilet for women and 1 for men, and they're tricky to get to and they're very old. So we're also proposing to knock down the clubhouse and rebuild the clubhouse and rebuild a very durable and pragmatic clubhouse that will, the emphasis on the grant is for women and girls to be encouraged to play sport, and anyone with a disability to be encouraged to come and play and connect and participate. So with that in mind, we've tried to design a very functional, durable and pragmatic building that will have change rooms and bathrooms for men and women, obviously, but particularly for girls and women, so that it's a place for them to feel safe and change, particularly safe for the rugby league. They don't have their own change rooms, so they could use our change rooms and then run out the doors, run out the front door of the clubhouse and across to the field, for instance. It will also have a big function area or space that can hold 130 people, wide verandas, a commercial type kitchen. We're hoping to be able to host or entertain sporting officials, conduct training and assessments in the building, and maybe even entertain, sponsors. We'll try and have a large screen. We'll have air conditioning. We got a solar quote the other day, so it could be powered by solar. We will have internal and external storage in that building. We are also hoping to build externally at the end of the multi-purpose surface a storage and viewing shed for hockey and soccer, so they can store their gear there. At the moment, Steve Prattley and his band use our clubhouse to rehearse. That would hopefully continue. There's a breastfeeding group that use our clubhouse. We're hoping to attract people like the Scone Literary Festival or the Kiora Music Camp. We want the community to use the building if we're able to make this happen. We're hoping to have digital access so we can gather records better, get more information, have better information on our income sources. And we're also hoping to, just checking my notes here, have a heating wall at the northwestern corner of the other courts. This was a request by the committee that they most wanted. So that's the big dream. I did receive a letter today from Barnaby Joyce after I'd requested a letter of support for him, so that was great. We are hoping that as the council owns the asset and the precinct, that they may help us waive the fees that are associated with a development application, and I did write to the general manager today in that regard. I'd also just quickly like to thank the council and the council staff for all their help. I've been there lots over the years, requesting help and getting their assistance in working out how to manage this process. So thank you very much to them, and thank you to you.
Thank you, Kirsty, and thank you for your presentation. Just before I open the floor up, first of all, congratulations on your efforts you put in. And, you know, people like you sort of keep the council going and the infrastructure going. And I wish you all the very best in the grant application. I spent a lot of time down there in the 80s enjoying myself. Probably lost more sets than I won, but I certainly enjoyed the facility, and well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to ask any questions? No further questions?
No, I'd just like to wish her the very best of luck and the tennis club the best of luck with the grant application. I know you
Thank
put
you.
in a lot of hard work. It was a great pleasure to meet with you and Phil Hood down there recently, and good luck with it all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I would endorse those comments, and also any of those sort of infrastructure things that are going to benefit the community, and in that way, it also benefits the Shire. I think they're great moves forward, because indirectly we'll all benefit. And I suggest to you that perhaps some from the outlying districts would come across and play a game of tennis there and use the facilities, which I think are really good. So congratulations and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions? Okay. Councillors, we'll move on to Lee Watts is now to do a presentation on the Neighbourhood Centre, annual presentation. Or whatever you feel like. Lee, you better come over, Senior. Yeah, you better go over there, Senior Lee Watts today. Just to be difficult.
Yeah, it's on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the last 12 months, our organisation, like many others and businesses that rely on fundraising and generated income, has not fared very well. While our service continues to receive the recurrent funding from the Department of Community and Justice, funding and other non-recurrent grants such as Strongest Communities and Heritage grants that are specifically for program and not wages or day-to-day running of the service. So while we're very fortunate to have one grant that is recurrent, all our others aren't. SNRC continued its services to the most vulnerable, and in between lockdowns, we're fortunate to open the Morning Bites breakfast van that was moved into a permanent position next door to the library building. This has made the job of volunteering much easier, as there was no towing of a vehicle required. Our wonderful volunteers would greet our children, talk about the day ahead while preparing and serving a hot healthy breakfast on their way to school. Our pantry is stocked. We are so fortunate to have such a caring community, filling our shelves every week with donations. Of course, there are times we're in short supply, but our partnership with local business often do fill the gap of those groceries. Developing new and maintaining partnerships enables the service to reach a range of people that need access to services and programs. We work with many organisations, including the Upper Hunter Shire Council, through community service activities, including Reconciliation Day, flag raising, and domestic violence. There are also a few programs postponed due to COVID that have been moved to 2022. These included an art and basket weaving workshop with school children right across the Upper Hunter Shire, which was very unfortunate, and they were very upset, I have to say, that it didn't go ahead. SNRC continued their partnership with JobLink Plus, who have supported projects such as Christmas in the Park, the Breakfast Van, and this year the Community Laundry, which the Scone RSL also contributed to financially. There's a long list all noted in the business plan, which was supplied to staff and councillors. More than ever, our over 50s in the community needed support with digital devices. Through the Be Connected program, we're supported through a weekly program when open. With Served New South Wales and QR codes used in most businesses, our participants needed to learn how to download and scan on their phones confidently to get into services and businesses. Training in construction and hospitality was offered with ATAC, facilitating these courses. For the first time, we offered a tween workshop in skincare, which proved very popular for an age group that often miss out, again supported by a local business. Connecting Communities ran where local businesses could access free services, podiatry, massage and haircuts for those that are doing it tough. The day included community groups on hand, access to information and resources, food and essential items. Unfortunately, Christmas in the Park and the SNRC auction, which are the centre's fundraisers, were cancelled. And with doors closed, SNRC has not been able to generate income through our service we offer to the wider community. Also cancelled this year was the Family Fun Day, pottery, art workshops and Be Connected when we weren't open. I have written and applied for many grants with a few small successes, but unfortunately not had any big, larger grants winning in that area. SNRC has tried and been unsuccessful in getting DGR status for many years, deductible gift recipient. And as we offer many and varied programs is the main reason the ATO says we can't get that. However, what we've done, we've established the Scone Community Pantry. It's our new business that we offer with a pantry and other services that are only for the most vulnerable. The not-for-profit business has been granted PBI status through the ATO. So this means that anyone donating over $2, that's now tax deductible. This status opens up a whole new world to us of grants that we'll be able to apply for. In 2006, I first wrote to Council to discuss options for an alternative venue for the SNRC. It has become more and more obvious our service needed more than officers. We have a lot of baggage that supports the service in generating income, but our clients need a place that gives them privacy and dignity to be supported. I note tonight that a recommendation is in the business papers, and I thank you for considering this change of venue. The cafe that is attached to the VIC will for the first time provide the SNRC an option to generate income to support the activities of the service. Our committee strive to create new programs to meet the ever-ending needs of our community. SNRC and I personally thank Council for their ongoing support. It's more than financial support, it's the little jobs in between as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Councillors, any questions to Lee? Please, Councillor, you let her get off of that. Oh, Councillor Campbell.
Councillor Campbell, yeah, look, thank you, Councillor Watts, for your presentation, and as usual, it's always done with a concise and aplomb, and I commend you for that. I did notice the fact that it certainly has gone down in the income side, which I guess is down. I think was from over 100,000 down to 3,000 some odd dollars. Would you attribute that only to the fact that you were not successful with grants and various fundraising activities, or
no, not entirely. The reduction was, I think, at the end of last financial year, we had quite a large grant still sitting in the money. So when you would have looked at the audit last year, I think there was $80,000 of that was a grant. But the rest of it is, yeah, we just haven't had the generated income through the door. Yep.
Thank you, councillors. No more questions? Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, council, move on to point 5, confirmation of the minutes on the council meeting held on the 30th of August 2021. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Disclosure of interest.
Mr. Mayor, I have a number in front of me. I'll go through them individually. I have one from Councillor Watts on item SCR 9.1, the D&E Services Committee, in respect to recommendation 3. She has a pecuniary and significant interest as she is the owner of the property, which is the subject of that report, and she will leave the room and have no involvement in that matter. I also have one from Councillor Watts on G 9.2, the Cultural Arts Grants for 2021. She has a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest as she is the manager of the service for the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre, and they are an applicant under the grant scheme. She will, however, leave the room and have no involvement in that discussion. I have another one from Councillor Watts on G 9.3, the relocation of Scone Neighbourhood Centre. She has a pecuniary and significant interest as the manager of the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre and will leave the room and have no involvement. I also have another one from Councillor Watts on G 9.4, being the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre annual presentation. Again, she has a pecuniary and significant interest as the manager of the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre and will leave the room and have no involvement for that matter as well. And finally, Mr. Mayor, I have a conflict of interest as the General Manager myself in item CR 9.2, the General Manager's Performance Review. I have a pecuniary and significant interest as it directly affects my employment contract with Upper Hunter Shire Council. I and the rest of the staff will leave the room during the discussion of that to allow free discussion of the council without any influence from myself or the staff.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Okay, councillors, we move over to page 11, A09.1. A Merrill minute, the passing of John Driscoll. John Driscoll sadly passed away on the 11th of September 2021. John was the husband of Councillor Lorna Driscoll. John was an employee with the former Scone Shire Council and the Upper Hunter Shire Council for 35 years, commencing duties as a labourer and over the years become responsible for the operation of Aberdeen Treatment Plant, the town maintenance and parks and gardens within Aberdeen. John retired from council in July 2008. In 2009, John joined council's Community Services Committee, in which he was an active member and a great spokesperson for the Aberdeen community. He provided feedback on behalf of the Aberdeen residents to help the committee plan and deliver a range of services and facilities, including improving parks, footpaths, and more recreational activities. He cared about his community and was involved in many events such as Anzac Day activities and Christmas celebrations. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, Councillor Driscoll, and your family at this difficult time. Vale John Driscoll. I'll move that from the chair. I don't need a seconder, Mr. Campbell. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, councillors, we move out to B09.1, page 12, election of deputy. Oh, sorry, I've missed this late report. There's another Merrill minute of the late report, infrastructure contributions reforms, A9.2. Everyone's got a copy. I've got a mover. There's for 6 points of the recommendation. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell.
Can I move with a minor amendment?
Yes, Councillor Fisher.
To dot point 4, that we include and also write to the Deputy Premier John Barilaro.
Yes, you happy with that, Councillor Campbell?
I'm in agreement with that.
Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, now we'll go over to page 12. B09.1, election of the Deputy Mayor, Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I might get you to move the recommendation first and then I'll conduct the election once that's been made.
Okay, councillors, you've got 3 points of the recommendation. Got a mover. Move Councillor Campbell, second Councillor Watts. All in favour? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, as the returning officer, I now invite any nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor for the Upper Hunter Shire Council for the remainder of the term. I already have one nomination before me. The nomination is for Councillor Fisher. It's been duly signed by Councillor Collison and Councillor Fisher. Do I have any other nominations? Councillors, given that there is only one nominee now for the role of Deputy Mayor, I declare that Councillor Fisher is elected as Deputy Mayor for the remainder of this council term. Congratulations, Councillor Fisher.
Congratulations, Councillor Fisher. We won't let you off the hook, so we've got a couple of more months to go. Thank you, by the way, for your support over the last 12 months. You've been great, so thank you. Okay, councillors, move over to page 21, SCR 09.1, Development and Environmental Services. We'll go through dot point 1 first, adopt the minutes. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Watts. Any questions, comment, discussion around that? I've lost Councillor, oh no, I haven't. No? Okay, we'll move across to dot point 2. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment around dot point 2? No? We'll move it to dot point 3. Oh, sorry. Wait. No, this one you'll be right. Okay, Councillor Watts is left. Dot point 3, got a mover. Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion? No? All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay. Oh yes, show of hands, sorry. I better go back, actually, yeah, show of hands for that one. Councillor Abbott, yes? All in favour? Thank you. I'll just go back and do show of hands on dot point 2. I didn't do it. Didn't do it? Didn't need it? No, righto. Thank you. Councillor Watts for information as the recommendation. Over, councillors, to page 44, SCR 09.2, Infrastructure Services. Got a mover. Move Councillor Campbell. Second, Councillor Driscoll, was it? Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 50, the Corporate Services. Move Councillor Watts. Second, Councillor Fisher. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott?
Yes, just a minor one. I actually did put in an apology for this meeting.
Sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Abbott, I think you only really need to apologise if you're on the committee. It was noted, but we don't really take apologies for councillors that are actually not on that committee. Is that right, Mr. GM?
That's correct. Whilst we note who's in attendance, we don't take apologies from non-committee members.
Okay.
Any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 55, C09.1, Merriwa Tourism and Promotion Committee. Move Councillor Campbell. Second, Councillor Watts. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Oh, Councillor Campbell,
Yes,
sorry.
look, I'd like to speak to it. Look, this has been something that has really taken off, I suggest, in the Marilla community. There's a lot of support for that, for these recommendations that are there. And I had discussions with the go-to person who was Carlita McConnell regarding this. And yes, they are very happy to run the event. They have it organised, but they just need the certain things to be done. In other words, we'd like the financial support if possible, which I believe we can help, and also the closing of the roads, which has already been in progress. And so the actual event, there won't be that many people that are required to assist from, if any, from the council. So it relieves the council of the work that has been done, but it's all arranged, and they're very keen to get on with the job, provided that COVID-19 doesn't step in and prevent the event from going ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. No more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over councillors, page 59, C09.2, White Park Management and Development Committee. Move councillor Fisher, second councillor Watts. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 63, D09.1, Development Application number 122/2021, Tennis Clubhouse and Storage Shed at 45 Hill Street, Scone. Move councillor Fisher. Second? Second councillor Watts. Any questions, comment, discussion?
I suggest we're all in favour of it anyway.
30.
And
Yeah, I think
fighting-
might have been game and set, councillor Fisher. Again, yeah, well done, Kirsty, and congratulations, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Show of hands for that, please. Yep, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, move over to page 89. E09.1, the Draft Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. Got a mover? Councillor Fisher, second. Oh, Sue, did you have your hand for a second?
That's okay.
No, David, you seconded?
I'll second it. Yep.
Yep. So move councillor Fisher, second councillor Abbott. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott?
Yes, I have some comments. So as the chair of the Sustainability Committee, I have already made initial comments to Mr. Jakes because this the draft Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan was sent to the Sustainability Committee. So I have already mentioned, and I will be submitting further, that the plan needs to be a lot stronger and clearer about the disastrous times we are facing now. We all know that in August, the IPCC released their 6th report and they issued a code red for humanity. So everything in that report we already know, but this time scientists are making it crystal clear that unless we do something urgently and to reduce the unprecedented human impact on global warming, we are on course for an unlivable planet by the end of this century. So I really feel that this plan, the Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, needs to actually mention Australian trends and show that heat waves will be more frequent. It needs to mention this, and that they will be more intense, and that the intensity and frequency and duration of fire and bad weather is projected to increase. And added to these terrifying projections are the likely increases in droughts, floods, and storms, including sandstorms. We need to attribute these catastrophic events to the climate change. And this plan, I am very happy that we've finally got a climate change strategy and action plan, but it doesn't go far enough. And we really need to be looking at everything that council does and every single action that we do and working out what our emissions are and what our impact is. We don't have time to be aiming for net zero by 2050. We need to be in fact, as a council, we've already resolved that we're going to be net zero by 2030. And we're already almost at the end of 2021, and we have done very little. We have a lot, there is optimism in that what we are looking at is really encouraging, but this plan worries me in that it is very light and we need to be doing a lot more, and everything that council does needs to be looking at our climate change and our impact, our climate change impact. So I do commend that we have got this far, but it doesn't go far enough. And I encourage all the community to put in their views and to comment whilst this is on public exhibition. Thank you.
Certainly agree. This is the opportunity, but I think staff have done a pretty fair job on a lot of stuff. I mean, we can always do better, but I think the staff have done very well, and congratulations. We're moving in the right direction.
Yes, we are. I'd just like to comment further because of Mr. Howard coming and giving his presentation. And the fact that council has not that we really have any say on this, but we have given in principle support for the Hunter gas pipeline through our shire, is very disappointing and doesn't fit with the climate change strategy and action plan and with council's own net zero commitments by 2030. There must be no new fossil fuel projects at all. They are already stranded assets, and even if they get approved, nothing will happen about them. But it is very disappointing that council, the Upper Hunter Shire Council, resolved that we could have a fossil fuel project come through our shire. So that was very disappointing. And I thank Mr. Howard again for coming and pointing these things out to us. Thank you.
Councillor Abbott. Okay, no more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Move over to page 106. F09.1, referral of the draft annual financial statement for the year end 30th of June 2021 for the conduct of an audit. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Driscoll. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Over to page 109, G09.1, special flood consideration clause, Upper Hunter LEP. Moved Councillor Watts, second Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Watts, you've got a conflict in the next three, I believe. Okay, councillors, page 118, G09.2, cultural activity grants. You wish to discuss them? They're over on the back. We should have all looked through them, or we're happy to move the recommendation. Move Councillor Fisher. Seconder, Councillor Abbott. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott?
Yes. I just wondered, with the Catholic Public School one, why we didn't give them the full amount that they requested, in that we looked at that and we considered it high.
I think, Councillor, if you look at the whole lot, I think the whole lot went under.
No, they didn't all go under.
Oh, not all, but anyway, I'm not sure who could answer that. Matt, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the larger amounts, you'll see most of those went under. The smaller grants, I think some of those were on what, on par with what they requested. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure the majority of the larger ones were under what was requested.
I was just thinking, it's such it's a good project, and the Catholic Public School are very worthy. I do note that one of the grants requested something with a 78 in it, and it was bumped up $2. I mean, obviously that makes it easier for council, but I just wondered why we wouldn't think for Catholic Public School, why we wouldn't give them the 1,500 rather than 1,300. But anyway, because I think it's a good project, that they're a good proposal that they've put forward.
Okay, that was taken on the comment. Any more questions, comment, discussion around that? All in favour? Against? Carried. Move over to 125, G09.3, relocation of the Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre. Councillor Fisher.
Yeah,
You've got an amendment.
I'll move with an amendment. We'll put in a dot point 2 that a further report be brought to the October 21 council meeting in relation to the changes required to the VIC and the associated costs and impacts on the VIC operations, and the basis for apportioning the ongoing operational costs.
Got a seconder for that small amendment? Second by Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion around it? Councillor Campbell?
Just to have one thing to ask in the report proposal down there. I just have a question. It says that purpose of providing a free community laundry facility. This will need to access to a kitchen as well as providing a safe place to wash clothes and access other services available at the NRC and the food pantry. They're all very good things. However, who's going to administer this? Who's going to be there to administer and to see that these things are being handled in the proper way? Just a question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they will have their own staff on site during normal business hours, and I believe they intend to have some staff there to service those facilities on weekends and after hours as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Fisher?
Yeah, just prior to this meeting, I was discussing with Councillor Watts that last point of the amendment, which referred to ongoing operational costs. And the Neighbourhood Resource Centre doesn't currently, I believe, pay their electricity at the library. It's covered under the donations policy. With a cafe and laundry facilities as well, the increase that you could project an increase in electricity costs at the VIC, and it would be a very good candidate for solar panels to because it's a bill the council will be paying, and there'll be a very good way of offsetting those increases. And it's we just discussed the climate change policy and the spreading of solar panels on our facilities and our buildings around the Shire, and I think that the VIC would be a very good early bird to knock off.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. And yes, I think that dot point, Councillor Fisher, you put in, and I think, I'd love to see a feedback. I wrote down a bit more information on that. Okay.
I'd like to.
Councillor Abbott.
Yes. So what was? I can't see the amendment at the moment. If Councillor Fisher please repeat what he stated for the amendment? Or is this the amendment?
Councillor Fisher to read it out again, Councillor Abbott.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. A new point 2, that a further report be brought to the October 2021 council meeting in relation to the changes required to the Visitor Information Centre and the associated costs and the impacts on the VIC operations and the basis for apportioning the ongoing operational costs.
Thank you. And I'd just like to ask, so the VIC will be moving, they will be relocating. So do we have any idea how long they will be coexisting on the same premises?
The GM.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We don't know at this stage. We expect that it could be up to 2 years. The work at Campbell's Corner is dependent on getting grant funding for the library, and that's when the VIC will also take up a small footprint within the library. So it's a possibility that it will be 2 years, but certainly dependent on grant funding.
And so we are looking at the neighbourhood centre is going to move to the current visitor information centre. So that's going to happen, isn't it? I'm just a little bit concerned about this doesn't seem as certain with this amendment as it did when I first read this recommendation.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe part 1 of the recommendation remains. So council approved the relocation of the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre into the Scone Visitor Information Centre. If that is adopted tonight, I think it gives some certainty that it's moving. All that the councillors are asking for is a cost impact on what it is. The costs of moving the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre to the VIC.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions, comment, discussion around it? No? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Over to page 129. G09.4 Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre Annual Presentation. Someone like to move the presentation? Move councillor Fisher, second.
Yeah,
Councillor Driscoll,
again with a minor
a
amendment.
minor amendment.
Yeah, just a point too that further to the 2015 council resolution, the council provided a donation of $6,000 to be reviewed annually, and that review to include CPI, which I think we already do on top of the original $5,000 donation.
Okay, councillor Driscoll, you happy with that small? Okay. Any questions, comment?
Yeah, if I may.
Councillor
Yeah,
Campbell?
look, I agree with this. That's why I questioned Councillor Watts on just how much it was dependent upon. Well, in other words, why that the income wasn't as high as it was before. But she explained to us that a lot of this was to do with the $80,000, I think, or so, but with a grant. However, the rest of it was raised, and so I support this. I think that the Scone Neighbourhood Centre does do a good job, and I'm quite happy to support the raise to $6,000. So I support that.
Thank you, councillor Campbell. No more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Ask councillor Campbell, councillor Watts back in, please. Councillor Fisher, when I might get you to read, you've got it written in when councillor Watts comes back in, because I don't think Robin's got that up there just yet. Councillor Fisher, you're happy to read that out in a minute? Yes. How far did you go, councillor Watts? So, councillor Watts, for your information, the cultural activity grants was passed as recommendation. The G09, the relocation of the Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre. Councillor Fisher's got a small amendment. I'll just get him to read that out.
That a further report be brought to the October 2021 council meeting in relation to the changes required to the Visitor Information Centre and the associated costs, impacts on the Visitor Information Centre operations, and the basis for apportioning the ongoing operational costs.
Thank you. And councillor Watts, the Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre annual presentation. There's a small amendment to that. Receive a presentation from the Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre further to the August 2015 resolution. The council provided a donation of $6,000, including CPI. That was moved. So thank you, councillors. We move over to page 132. Draft Risk Management Framework. Got a mover, councillor Fisher, second councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I would like to comment in this draft risk management framework. Where is there any mention of climate change and its attribution? Because if we approve this policy, in my opinion, we will immediately be in breach of it. And I'd like to just draw your attention to page 139, that basically it states here that making council decisions with regard to identified risks. Well, we know that climate change is a risk. We know that the IPCC have given us all a warning, a code red for humanity. I'm just wondering how all of this fits in to this. Page 143 states that the risk management framework applies to all areas, functions, services and deliverables of the Upper Hunter Shire Council. The framework is designed to capture all strategic, operational, project, compliance, reputational and environmental risks and any other type of risk identified. So we know that climate change is a risk. Yes, it doesn't get a mention at all in this policy. There is a typo also, I think it's a typo, on page 144 of 10 of 20. The first line, inherent, I think it's supposed to be instead of inherit. Basically, it just worries me. Oh, yes. And in the consequence table, where is the environmental column? We've got other columns, but we haven't got the environmental column. Again, on page 145, how does the Risk Management Committee currently view climate change risks to our Shire? I just feel it's been left out of this very important policy. 146, I want to know, do we have a high tolerance of accepting climate change risk at this council? Because again, it's not mentioned and I really believe it ought to be. I think it's probably, I have a few more things to say, but you've probably got the gist of what I'm saying, and that I think this policy is important, but it doesn't address climate change, and climate change is here. We're already facing it. We're already seeing the disasters in this very Shire. And I just feel this risk management framework totally omits it. Thank you.
I'm going to get the General Manager to answer those, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Through you, Mr Mayor, if I can maybe point Council to page 144 with the consequence table. We don't go through at this level in the framework of identifying the actual individual risks. What we do is we identify what the outcomes of those risks are, and they have been identified in those headings. So compliance or regulatory risks, financial risks, reputational risks, strategic and operational performance risks, and people and work health and safety risks. Now, Councillor Abbott has put forward that climate change should be a risk. What would normally happen is climate change and the many ways that it manifests itself, either through increased heat, drier summers, wetter winters, whatever it might be that the climate change outcome is, would be considered as a risk, but we would give the consequence in those terms of whether it's a compliance or regulatory risk, whether it's a financial risk, a reputational or operational or people risk. And in some instances, a particular risk such as climate change may impact a number of those areas. So we don't particularly identify each individual risk, but we do identify how they manifest themselves through the consequences.
Thank you. To me, that isn't clear, though, how we're going to actually manage, because I have repeatedly been asking that we actually do include the climate change risk in all our project plans, that essentially is commensurate to the nature, scope and risk profile of the project, because clearly climate change is here with us, and everything we do, I think we should be looking at how that impacts the footprint of us and our emissions and how we're trying to reduce our emissions. So I'm just curious as to when that will happen, when we really factor in climate change in everything that we do.
Matt, do you wish to speak, or you're quite happy?
I was just going to add, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, that, I mean, we are considering climate change in our risk register. We have had discussions around that, so it's certainly been considered. That's for sure.
Should it be mentioned in this risk management framework, though? Should the words actually be mentioned?
I guess the difficulty we have with the framework, Councillor, is that once you identify one risk, you're then, I guess, expected to identify all the other types of risks. And I'm not sure where that would end. I'm happy to get some advice. I'm certainly not an expert in risk management. I'm happy to get some advice around how this is treated in other organisations. So maybe we can come back to you on that response.
Yes, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, no more questions, comments?
Mr Mayor, yeah, look, I'd like to comment. Look, being in the agricultural industry, I believe that the agriculture is one of the industries that will be affected by climate change. If you look back in history, you will find, to think we're going to hold back nature, I think we are looking at the wrong way of looking at it. We've got to adapt to what nature dishes up to us. That is including increased heat. We'll get hot summers, we'll get cold winters. Those are things that, look, I've lived through this all my life. My father lived through it and my grandfather lived right through that. And to listen to those people who lived through these climate change, the climate is changing, you're quite correct. But the causes of it, I don't agree with the fact that this is always going to happen, and I believe that farmers are ones that actually change the climate back to the good by the growing of crops and the way in which that they run their livestock. To suggest that we've just got to identify each one because certain councillors believe that is what is the cause of the problem, I think this is quite wrong and quite out of the council's scope of work. So I just think that we need to have a balance in what we're doing, and I think that this strategic plan addresses most of that. I would disagree with some of the stronger, but I'm quite happy to go along with that but just to read into everything is what Councillor Abbott seems to do, is the fact that it's a doomsday and that we're ruining everything, I think is quite over the top, and I don't agree.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
And Mr Mayor, I just want
Can I move
Councillor
a point-
Fisher?
Can I move a point of order? We're discussing the draft risk management framework, not specifically climate change, and I move that the motion be put.
Yes, I agree. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 155. I might get Karen just to explain it, just so we know what's going on here. Karen, thank you.
Through you, Mr Chair. As we're all aware, the Marilla Street Causeway upgrade has been planned for at least 2 years now. We did receive grant funding for that. However, unfortunately, when we attempted to apply for a change to the scope of works, we have had several delays over the course of 2 years through no fault of our own. Originally, at consultation with the community, we had 7 people that were for a causeway and 7 people that were for a bridge structure and 2 people that would prefer no action at all. So it was quite equal in that result. We also noted that the engineering team agree that with the causeway as it is, or any causeway replacement in the form of a causeway, would not eliminate the safety hazards that have come up, including slime and slippage and flooding, etc. However, the implementation of a recommended option of a low-level bridge will help to eliminate that. It will also keep the thoroughfare open more frequently, and it will allow the passage of fish up and downstream. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Director.
yes, through you, Mr Mayor. The community didn't.
Just thank Councillor Watts. Councillor Watts moved the recommendation. Councillor Watts, did you move it? We got a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Fisher. Now, questions, comment, discussion. Councillor Abbott.
Yes, the community didn't want this bridge when it went out to the community. And one of the things that really concerned the community was that the heritage bridge would be visually impacted, that the walking bridge, the pedestrian bridge that is there, would be visually impacted by a new bridge, a low-lying bridge. Now, I note that the fish can go through with the bridge, but they can also go through with the causeway. And given that it's quite a big project and a lot of money, I think this should go back to the community, and we should put all this to the community and say, here's where we are after 2 years, and this is where we're at. But we shouldn't make this decision right now without the Murrurundi community and the wider community as well having a look, but particularly the Murrurundi community, because they were very concerned about the pedestrian bridge, the heritage pedestrian bridge, being visually impacted by the lower level bridge. So I will be objecting to this. Because I think option 3 is our option, and that we should be seeking community consultation again and keeping them updated as to where we are, our funding constraints, the fact that the money needs to be used up. We need to be putting all that to the community and not making this decision just by ourselves.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Abbott. I was half inclined to go that way, but when you look at the last report, there was 7 for, 7 against. I've tried with the last local member, I've tried with a new local member to try and solve this and get on. I'm afraid that if we don't make a decision, we're not going to have any bridge. That's my only, and I think going back to the community, we're just going to, every time I go up to Marunda to a meeting, we get asked about when is this going to be done. And look, it's up to council. Council make the decision. I'm going to move on the second as per the recommendation. So, Councillor Campbell, you're going to make a comment?
If I may, Mr Mayor, look, I agree with that, and I just think that if we don't move, we will lose the money. It's very clear in the report that comes up, and I refer you to the councillors to page 163, predicted visual impact of the low level bridge on the swinging bridge. I cannot accept that that is going to detract from the swinging bridge. That swinging bridge is just great, and if you're going to stop and go and view the bridge, you will. The crossing I don't accept is going to be to detract from that. If you turn over to page 164, predicted visual impact of the high level bridge, that's a different matter altogether, and it does detract because the bridge then looks smaller. But if you look back at once again at page 163, the height of the bridge is very clear and very clearly visible from anyone, from any position that you take. And I'm very happy to support the resolution, because I believe that low level bridge will, in time to come, I think that those who oppose it, I think, will be very thankful that they have safety to cross that particular area in Marilla. So I support the resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I would suggest, if the community not in favour of what we decide tonight, I suppose the next thing we could do is just give the money back and go back to the causeway that's there now. Because I just think we're moving nowhere, and I said I just can't keep going back to Marilla and saying we got no answers. Yes.
Look, and I agree. I think we did do community consultation, and I'm all for community consultation. We should be listening to what the community is saying, but at 7 and 2 years, I think we need to move forward and just go on to the next stage as per that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. So we're going to move in a second. All in favour? Against? Councillor Abbott. Against. Okay, councillors, move over to page 170, NM 09.1, naming request for Bobby Payton at Rosedale Complex, Marundi. I move this motion myself, that the canteen be advertised, the council advertised for 28 days its intent to name the new canteen facility. Council, make sure you take the bar out of that and just new canteen facility at Wilson Memorial Oval, Marundi, in honour of Bobby Payton, and report the consultation results back to council. Don't need a second, but all in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 171. There's questions with notice there from Councillor Burns, Councillor Abbott, responses. Everyone happy with the response, or Councillor Abbott?
No, I'm still not happy about the fact that we don't have a tree policy, and that our management and our tree protection is completely, there's no policy for it. And I know that the DCP is being changed, but it's been a long time coming. And at the moment, we're completely, yes, we're policyless in terms of our urban canopy. And so those are my comments on the tree policy. And we actually do have some very concerned people at the moment about prospective tree chopping down. So it does concern me. And also I've asked about the gender equity policy, and that we don't have one. We have two policies. We have an equal employment opportunity and harassment, bullying. Are they two separate policies? Anyway, we don't have a gender equity policy, and I really think we ought to. I think a lot of other councils are looking at this, and we should too. So I think we need to do a lot in this area. There's, I think, yes, I think, well, I have to say, I think women are quite vulnerable in this council, and I think that we really need to make
I'm sorry, you can say everything, but I'm not going to allow you to say that. Thank you.
Why are you not going to allow me to say that? Doesn't that actually tap into what I'm trying to say?
Councillor Abbott, we've got you've asked the question, we've given you the answer, and I imagine it's up to council, as a council, to make the decisions. Right, Mr. General Manager?
Well, I'm not happy with the response. I'm not happy with council's response.
Mr. Mayor, the questions to councillors are normally not up for debate. They are the response of the staff in regard to the question. If the councillor isn't happy with the response, the next step would be for the councillor to move a notice of motion at the next meeting to try and address the inconsistency or the gap that they believe exists.
So yes, councillor Abbott, you can certainly move a notice of motion if you wish to at the next council meeting, but we're not here to I don't believe we're here to go on about the boys club and all that sort of stuff. I'm over that, so. Okay, we'll move on. Do I need a? I don't need a. The council note the questions received and respond provided. That's right. Okay, councillors, get someone to move us into closed council, please. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Campbell. Two members of the public. You member of the public, I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave you there. You're quite welcome to come back in when we come back into open council. But yeah, we can't have you involved in this. Thank you for your participation. All gone? Not just yet.